Hello, I'm Mike, and welcome to the Saga of the Clone Saga, aka the Clone Zone, where we, the students of S.H.I.E.L.D., embark on this tumultuous journey week in, week out, going arc by arc of the infamous 1990 Spider-Man Clone Saga. And I'm joined alongside today by...
I'm Matt.
And I am Vincent.
And sponsor for this week, if you watched our Keystone Comic Con video, our haul video, and earlier today, we did have the opportunity to speak with current Amazing Spider-Man writer Nick Spencer, who Amazing Spider-Man #5 just came out last week, right?
Yeah.
Go pick that up. It's a great issue. Actually, go pick all of them up. They're all great. This run's been good so far. But the sponsor this week will be Mr. Nick Spencer. I just want to say, on behalf of all of us, thank you again for taking the time and chatting with us there to make that video. That was really cool of you.
Yeah, it was great.
Matt, as a big fan of the current run and as kind of our resident biggest Spider-Man fan, where would you, just to make things complicated, where would you rank Nick Spencer as of this exact moment in the pantheon of Spider-Man writers?
Yeah, with one arc done, it looks like.
Oh man. Well, with he's only one arc in. There's still plenty of room for him to mess it up.
He's one arc on Amazing Spider-Man, but that's not all of his Spider-Man work.
That's true.
It's not all of his Spider. You can't count Superior Foes, really.
I don't know.
Villain's book.
It's adjacent.
I don't want because I don't know how these comments are going to age. I'm going to assume Spencer's going to do all right, but he could also kill off Pete and bring back Ben Reilly or something. I don't know yet.
Well, there's no Ben Reilly to bring back because he's already back.
It's comics. Anyone can come back.
Bring back another Ben Reilly. We have Ben Reilly 2.
All right. Pretend.
But as of right now, is
he top 10?
Yes. I think he's definitely top 10. I think I would be comfortable putting him in top 5.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
So who does he possibly bump out? Who's your top 5?
You're not gonna like my answer. JMS.
Oh wow, that's a hot take.
So
yeah, I know.
Who's your 5? Is it Lee, Conway?
Conway, Stern. Lee, Conway, Stern.
Spencer.
So slot in your 5 and JMS not.
Huh?
Is slot in your 5 and JMS isn't?
Slot. I don't want to put Slot in my top 5.
So possible other options, you have Bendis, DeMatteis.
Oh, Bendis. Sorry, I need Bendis. Yeah.
All right, you heard it from the man. And now let's get into issues that are not written by any of those 5 people.
Yeah, Vince, what are we talking about this week?
So I thought we kind of had a grab bag of issues, and we do. But there is actually some connective plot here. And I was pretty interested in this because there is no crossover here. For almost all of our episodes to this point, it's been like, here's Back from the Edge, parts 1 through 4, and then a stupid unlimited issue. None of these are labeled part 1 or part 2, but we have subplots going along directly from each series. And so it's closer then to like the 90s triangle era of Superman, where you kind of do have to read all of the Spider-Man books, but they're not formally crossing over. It's kind of weird.
I enjoyed this more. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. So first we have Sensational Spider-Man 7. And I don't know if you guys remember, but the cover to this issue is it's pretty much the exact same concept as the last issue of this series. It's Spider-Man grabbing someone falling from a building. Last time it was a kid.
Reminds me of the Mike Diodato covers.
Yeah. So we have a creative team shift here. We have Todd DeZago taking over from Dan Jurgens on writing, and he's joined by Luke Ross. And real quick spiel on Luke Ross. After this is just a fill-in for him. He'll shortly settle on Spectacular for 2 full years. Through his career, he's also worked on Captain America during the Ed Brubaker run. He did a run on Secret Avengers with Nick Spencer, I believe. And he did a run very recently on Hercules with Dan Abnett, which I picked up in the Keystone Comic-Con hall. So everything's connected. And Luke Ross continues working to this day. And he's recently been one of Marvel's go-to guys for their Star Wars line, which I don't really care about. I don't think any of us care a ton about, but it does the numbers. He worked on the Force Awakens adaptation.
I don't know what Star Wars is, so
the Darth Maul comic and the Thrawn comic.
Those are all. It's like Pokemon to me. I don't know what that is.
I've heard some of Darth Maul.
So obviously his style has evolved a lot, because if he was drawing like he does in this issue, I don't think anyone would want to read it. He has it's like a kind of cartoony style, and like I kind of see some interesting things in it on a few pages. Otherwise, I'm just like, this is like a weird, rough, bad 90s thing. It
reminds me of Americanized manga style.
Yeah, there is some Eastern stuff in there as well. So we start the issue with Ben rushing to the hospital, and I don't know if it's because we've had maybe some weird episodes as stopgaps, but the way Ben is written and some of the relationships, they seem to me at least, they seem to drastically change in direction, where now Ben and Peter are like, they see each other completely as brothers, which they've been getting along well since Pete has been back in New York, but it hasn't been as close and explicit until literally this issue and this whole episode.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of jarring.
But it's kind of interesting, and I kind of welcome the change. It is jarring, but it's obvious what they're doing is trying to increase our emotional investment in Ben and their relationship now that they've actually decided on the conclusion, so that it hits harder when we get there. And I think for me, it sort of worked.
Sure.
So Ben rushes to the hospital, which Pete's still in from his breakdown or whatever. And then Flash Thompson shows up. And the last time we saw Flash Thompson, he was in a bar sitting next to Ben Reilly, and they were speaking to each other. And, they should recognize Flash should recognize Ben here.
You would think. He was also sitting in that bar talking about how much he hates Peter Parker, but now he's his best friend. So again, that scene bothers me even more now in retrospect.
I can also say that Ben is walking into this hospital with a very Joker-like smile on his face.
Yeah, just again, weird 90s Luke Ross art, whatever. Then we get a parade of friends of Peter Parker come through. We have Robbie, we have basically the whole Bugle staff, and it's kind of mostly it, plus Flash. And there's no sign of Jameson, though, which is a surprise, because I guess at this point in history, Jameson would show up to Peter's hospital bed.
Probably, yes.
And a man who we get to know as George is on the top of a skyscraper considering suicide. And I think the building is a Rand Corps building, which is mentioned once, and then they kind of drop for the rest of the issue. And I think they even refer to it as different things, but the whole Rand Corporation / Rand Meacham, as it is at this point, comes up as we go on. So Ben tries to help this guy out, talking down from the ledge, and there are helicopters also trying to monitor things. It's really windy, so a helicopter crashes into the building.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
I feel like if you're a helicopter pilot, you should know better than to put yourself in that situation, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't like helicopters.
Freak accidents. So Ben quickly grabs George off the roof, and then kind of recruits him to help as he grabs the rest of the people. So he's just like, hey, I know you wanted to kill yourself, but can you do CPR real quick?
Yeah.
And
I really like this scene where Spider-Man is saving these people from the helicopter. This is actually really good.
yeah, it's pretty good. But then there's this sequence which I couldn't really decide on, where we get parallel scenes. It would, like in a movie, it would be intercut, where we
Yeah.
have Ben saving people, and one of the people that he saved is going into cardiac arrest, and at the same exact moment in the hospital, Peter is going into cardiac arrest, and they cut these together across a few pages, and I'm like, I get it, this is clever, but it's just like the exact rhythm, and maybe it's just Luke Ross's storytelling. It just didn't click perfectly for me, and I think it's just a matter of the era or something.
I agree. I think if they'd been done by a different artist, then it may have been more successful.
And in the end, having helped out, George changes his mind about the whole suicide thing, and
That's how depression works.
it's super quick. He's just like, it's not even like Ben doesn't have a conversation with him. Ben is just like,
Yeah.
"Hi, George," and George is like, in 2 sentences, "Oh, I'm not going to kill myself." And Ben's like, and he's kind of a dick about it. I don't remember the specific wording, but Ben is just kind of like, "Oh, I gotta go,"
Yep.
and I'm like, "Oh." It's like I couldn't tell. I don't know. It was kind of weird.
No, he says that's it, George. You the man. Because then George goes, no, Spidey, you the man.
You the man.
You have to do that
And
in a New York accent.
the big deal at the end of this issue
All
is
the cranes are helping Spider-Man.
"Hey, yo, Spidey, we got you." Oh my god, that is the only good part of that movie.
It's not. No, it's not even. It's memed to hell by us.
Yeah, but it's amazing.
It's hilarious.
Vince, when we were on campus and they were building the high rises, we would send each other Snapchats back and forth with the cap with just a crane capturing "Yo, Spidey, we got you."
Yeah, I love it. The thing is, if I actually went and watched the movie, I don't think it's actually even like that. Like I think the scene in the movie
Oh, that's
is actually 1,000 times more boring and shorter than I imagined it.
It is.
But the big deal at the end of this issue is that Dr. Connors, Kurt Connors, aka sometimes the Lizard, is brought in as a specialist on Peter Parker's medical case. And we'll get into his involvement more as we go along, but he never brings up the fact that he totally tests Peter Parker whether he was a clone like forever ago. Like
Right.
you think Ben would have actually taken him aside and be like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember."
And then and
that envelope that I didn't open.
also, we kind of skimmed over this because it doesn't go anywhere yet, but I imagine it's going to. There's 3 panels where they just randomly mention, hey, it looks like the Talker's out of jail, and he stole some stuff. And
Yeah.
that's it. It's completely random. And
Well, the thing is, it stumped me because did Shocker show up like an episode or 2 ago? Or did I just imagine that? I don't think he did.
no.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, there's also an ongoing subplot where it's just like a bunch of villains are doing stuff behind the scenes.
Bunch of really lame villains.
Yeah. And Ben's like, "Oh, are they making the Sinister 10?" And it's like, "Oh, joy, that'll be a fun arc to get to."
I bet.
So, Amazing Spider-Man 414. But real quick, overall, I liked that first issue.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I just the art was bad and the writing was bad, but I enjoyed it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, tons of nitpicks, but
yes, mostly nitpicks.
I wasn't incredibly underwhelmed by Todd DeZago taking over from Dan Jurgens, which is weird because DeZago's been writing on and off a bunch of the books for a while now, and I've never been particularly impressed by him. But
No.
I don't know if I was just in a good mood. That's what I was thinking.
That's possible.
So, or wanting to be in a good mood, as it were. So, moving into Amazing 414, usual team of DeFalco and Bagley. And in this issue, we have the first appearance of Delilah, who has a boob window. And she has these, like, you know how Spider-Man has his underwebbing in his armpits? She has something like that, but it's kind of like restricting. and I don't understand it at all. It's a
It's
really
really,
time.
yeah, it's really weird.
She's an assassin, and beyond her design, her appearance, she has obnoxious lettering where she like every other word is like a different font and in colors, and I hate it.
Yeah, I don't know what they were going for with that. I don't know what the desired effect is because
I
I
was
don't think it works. I'm assuming it's supposed to sound sensual.
I was so confused because so getting into it, she starts off her introduction. She's like posing as a lounge singer, I think. So I was like,
Read her lines. Make it sexy.
oh, is she singing? But then she does it no matter in what the circumstance is. But they never made it clear that it was singing either. It's just dumb.
How did you interpret her first sentence?
I don't know. I don't want to.
Okay.
And so again, the whole brotherly love direction with Ben and Peter continues. Jameson is officially missing. He's declared missing. And I love how off the bat, Ben just assumes the worst. And he's like, oh, he's probably fucking around with health insurance to screw over Peter.
Yep.
And it's like, come on, he's not that bad. He's had some character development in the 5 years since. And speaking of no name villains, someone gets robbed by the Ringer. I can't even remember who the Ringer is, but I feel like he probably showed up on Daily Spider Bites like 10 episodes ago.
I do not know the Ringer.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure who the Ringer is. But I was a little excited when Ben said, oh, maybe the Grizzly will pop up next. And I'm like, I kind of want to see the Grizzly.
I hope he
It's
does.
been like 20 episodes since we've seen the Grizzly.
Then Ben, obviously, he's working at the Daily Grind, and Desiree shows up, and Ben is like, hey, have you heard from Jessica? And I'm like, oh, they mentioned her again. But then Ben's interpretation of how things worked out annoyed me because he sees Jessica as a lost soul that he couldn't connect with and that he couldn't save, that he failed her, despite the fact that they had fully reconciled with each other and were like actually very serious in their final like encounters with each other. And she just left. And like they acknowledge that, but I'm like, I'm still kind of bummed about that. But I'm assuming this is her final reference. And while he's at the Daily Grind, he pokes his nose in Shirley's business because, as teased whenever, I guess 2 episodes ago, since we had the Backlash stopgap, her ex-husband is in town. And then there's some like terrible narration of Ben calling Devin, this like child, a punk that he doesn't like. And I'm like, you just sound like an asshole.
Yeah. This kid's like what, 12 maybe?
Yeah, if that. And so Ben is just stalking Devin and his father and gets into things when a baby carriage is pushed their way and it's a bomb.
Like a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Yeah. And so Ben thinks that Devin's father is some kind of assassin or he's a goon. And then Delilah gets involved and there's a little fight. And the dumb kid, it's been in the sewers at this point. And the dumb kid gets down in the sewers and gets taken hostage. And then I don't understand this conclusion. I mean, it works out in the end from when you learn her motivations. But Delilah, the one who has the hostage, makes a deal to both give up her hostage and reveal her boss.
Yes.
I don't know if that math really works out in the hostage situation.
When I was reading it, I thought he was trading his life for his son's and also that information, except then she doesn't kill him. So I don't know what she got out of it.
So her boss is Hammerhead, allegedly. And it turns out Devin's father, his name is Garone. I don't know what his name is supposed to be. Garone Lewis. he's a detective. And so it turns out Ben Reilly is just a racist. And I love that.
Yep.
He just assumed he was like a mobster. And then there's, to contrast Ben being a dick to Devin earlier, he takes a complete 180 and warms up to Devin because he's another fatherless kid, I guess, similar to Ben Reilly / Peter Parker. And I'm like, that's not going to go anywhere.
Nope.
But the big reveal is that Delilah's real employer is the Rose. But
Is it a reveal? Like, every time you've seen him so far in this issue, his face is in shadow, so you don't know who he is, but he's holding a rose.
yeah,
So anyone who's read a book before knows, oh, it's the rose.
it's a really shitty reveal. So the Rose identity is used by several people, and the first was Wilson Fisk's son, who then went anti-hero for a little period, but then got back with his parents and then jumps back and forth. And Mike, do you remember what happened to, I think his name is Richard Fisk?
Yes, it is.
Repeat that for me, please.
Do you remember what happened to the Rose, Richard Fisk, Wilson Fisk's son?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's in the very beginning of the Bendis run. He's shot by his mother, Vanessa Fisk.
Damn.
So he got killed. And the second Rose was a cop seeking vengeance against the Kingpin, which was in a Howard Mackie Web of arc back in 1992. And so this is a new third one, but I'm not spilling the beans yet. It's kind of an interesting, it's not really, but it's a weird review.
Is it someone we know?
Wait, the ones that's killed during the Bendis run on Daredevil, wouldn't he be after that then?
At this point, I believe Richard Fisk, he's going by like Bloody Rose or something stupid.
Okay.
Like he's technically a different character at this.
Oh my god, is that why oh my god, is that why in the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, after Kingpin kills someone, he leaves a rose?
I have no idea. I don't know.
I think that's probably a reference to the Hunger Games.
That wasn't out yet. What? Okay, so Spider-Man 71. This issue is the cover of one of the paperbacks, which I think is weird because it's not a very impressive cover.
No,
it's just totally ridiculous. John Romita Jr. stylization and anatomy. Creative team, as usual, Howard Mackie and Jeremy Romita Jr. And we're back to wacky mob stuff with Don Fortunato. And the first like 3 pages are mob stuff, and he has so much fucking dialogue.
It's ridiculous.
It's pretty awful, and I don't think any of it is actually relevant.
It's not, but Peter Parker's dead.
Well, we're gonna get there. First, someone.
Oh wait, yeah, that's the next issue, isn't it? Yeah. Whoops.
Someone doused the entire train yard in glue.
Yeah.
To steal, and allegedly they stole, I believe, $10 million in cash or something.
Yeah.
And so it was probably the trapster.
How much money in glue would that be, though?
Yeah, I was like
making a profit on that.
That has to be literally 1 ton of glue.
They had to kill so many horses.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Like, Taste Pot Pete just slaughters horses.
So there's a funny scene of a medical resident dreaming about his future comfortable life, making all the bank and not having to deal with any serious cases. He just has to get through a year or 2 in New York. And Hammerhead snaps him out of it with a gun to his face. And he's like, "Patch me up, Doc."
And this man is covered in stains, presumably from chocolate syrup.
And this whole time they've been playing it up like Peter Parker might actually die. And he gets Ben to promise to watch over MJ and the baby. And he even says explicitly that Ben has been the better Spider-Man. And we finally get a name of the mobster that Ben saved in a narration box, which I swear to God, his name was never mentioned in his first appearance. His like first 3 appearances a few episodes ago. We now know he's named Jimmy Six. That's a good mobster name, Jimmy Six.
Sure.
And he's going to try and be Ben's new roommate. And now, connecting things back around, who's the better roommate or more interesting roommate, Jimmy Six or Boomerang?
Oh, Boomerang.
So the thing is, 5 issues in, and again, we're enjoying everything. We definitely haven't gotten to the full extent of Boomerang roommate.
No, but it sounds like he can be delving into that in this next arc.
Yep.
Which I'm very excited for, even if Ramos is drawing it.
Yep. Do you guys know that Ramos is drawing the next 6 issues?
Yeah.
The entire second trade will be Ramos.
But then Otley's coming back, presumably.
Yeah. With issue, I think like 13 or
13 or something. Ridiculous.
Here's the thing. We were talking about this off air. Well, we were talking about this at the con. When I was talking to Greg Capullo, and I saw this whole new 52 Batman run in front of me. It's like, holy shit, the guy did 52 straight issues. No one does consecutive issues anymore. So you're going to get a guy that it's going to have to switch off on arcs. That's just how it is.
Well, it's just frustrating because Ryan Otley literally did 100 plus straight issues of Invincible.
Yeah, that's why.
So it's like, just let the book be monthly so that you can have creative consistency. But if it sells twice a month, then they're going to print it twice a month.
Yep.
We've said, and as you've said before, that it'll always sell because it's the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep. The fans kill themselves. And that's why we're reading the Clone Saga.
Yeah.
So Ben Urich starts smoking in the hospital. Can you do that in 1996?
Apparently, because here's Ben doing it.
That is a thing that's just totally gone now, isn't it? Do you guys remember when you went to a restaurant and they'd say smoking or non-smoking?
Yeah, I think it was made fully illegal in Philadelphia, like not super long ago. I was probably like 10. But
that's just crazy. Like, I remember when me and my family would go out to eat, and that was a question. Now it's just like it's just gone now. You don't.
I remember walking into restaurants like that we hadn't gone to before, and like they would have non-smoking sections, but some restaurants you'd walk into, and the smoke would just be so heavy where it's like, all right, we'll go to a different restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, all right, scratch that off. But in the hospital, that's crazy. There was less social stigma and less legal issues and everything like that. But even still, they totally knew the health issues at this point. And you have all kinds of oxygen tanks and emphysema patients and all kinds of shit. That's crazy. But Ben Urich gets grabbed by Hammerhead literally right in front of Ben Reilly. So, of course, he throws his costume on. And now we get Hammerhead in a bulky exoskeleton, which just looks terrible.
It's a disgusting design.
But it is not Romita's design. This is an exoskeleton he got from the Tinkerer. It's slightly changed, but this dates back to Fantastic Four 233 from 1982 from John Byrne. And Hammerhead, to my knowledge, has not used the exoskeleton since then. So Howard Mackie was just like, or maybe Romita, I don't know who, or an editor, probably an editor, was just like, hey, remember that single appearance where Hammerhead had a really stupid exoskeleton? Let's bring that back 14 years later. It's really weird. And to deal with Hammerhead trying to take hostages and hurting innocent bystanders, Ben Reilly just webs up an entire hallway, which makes it so that Romita doesn't have to draw backgrounds, but he also does, because he just has to draw webbing. on the entire rest of the panel. I don't understand this at all.
Yeah, I don't know what the point of that was.
And then the fight itself, it's like kind of cool, but it's not. There are like a few moments where they jump at each other and it's like, oh, cool, blockbuster action, but the storytelling's not quite there. I felt like Romita, and like, I guess it was the last issue of Spider-Man where we got the introduction to Jimmy Six and it was raining and stuff. And particularly me, I really enjoyed the art in that issue, but I felt like it was a slight step down for this one from Romita.
I think a lot of it's really not good. I think a lot of it's really not up to Romita standard.
But Hammerhead kills the fight by shooting an oxygen tank. But I swear he crushed his gun in his stupid Exo hand like 20 pages ago. But I don't really care. And Ben rushes to Peter's room. And I wasn't sure if that was like due to the explosion, but I think it was just by coincidence there was like news from that room. And Peter flatlines and he's dead after he kisses MJ and says he loves her. And we get one silent page, which is pretty emotional.
With a flat line going across the whole page.
Yep.
It's fairly well done.
Okay. We know he's not dead.
Yeah.
So now Spectacular 237. Remember the stupid lizard we saw way back in the Super
Specials? Back.
Which I still don't understand how Marvel placed the reading order for either part of the Super Specials. Obviously, the front of them was the Planet of the Symbiotes, and then the back was the stupid lizard story. So that stupid lizard is back, and a certain doctor is going to get involved from what we see on the cover, but it's totally not who we think it is. That's not just me, right? When you saw that cover, you totally assumed that the doctor, the person in the scrubs on the cover, was someone who it ends up not being, right?
Right.
Okay. Creative team here is DeZago and Buscema. Peter Parker is dead, as at the end of the last issue. Rest in peace. And we get 3 pages from Buscema of everyone just crying and hugging each other over and over. And it's like, these pages could have almost been emotional, and there are moments, but something doesn't fit. And the one page from last issue,
of the lizard?
Well, yeah, directly before it. But the one page from last issue was like, and that wasn't even great, but that was 10 times better than these 3 pages.
Yeah.
But it's all pointless because directly the next page, Pete is back alive and he has a seizure or something and destroys the entire hospital room. Which the deal there is he has super strength again or something. And he can't control it. So Jameson, like I said, is officially missing. His office was ransacked, and Robbie picks up a Rand Meacham Corporation file. And then there's a really quick, dumb Onslaught tease, which we will get to in like 2 episodes. Are you guys excited for Onslaught?
I'm excited for the Onslaught podcast that I know we're eventually probably going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we do that, we may have to read these. We may have to read certain Spider-Man issues for a second time.
No, we don't. We can just say we talked about that in Saga of the Clone Saga.
I don't think they're technically in the Onslaught omnibus because they're not really relevant. That's the problem. So Kurt Connors, he has this weird over-the-top monologue as he walks through the city about how shitty the world is. And I couldn't read it because I couldn't like pick up what they were trying to do because the first page of it, he's like he's focusing on environmental things. And it's like, okay, he's the lizard, sort of like animalistic environmental angle if you want to go that way. But then he just starts whining about anything.
And everything.
And I'm like, okay, Kurt Connors just hates the world. and it doesn't come up as relevant in any other way. It's just 3 pages wasted on irrelevance. And one of the things he does discuss, though, is Graydon Creed's campaign for president. And Graydon Creed is the child of Mystique and Sabretooth, but he's running on an anti-mutant platform, and that eventually all culminates in the Operation Zero Tolerance crossover.
Great.
Which is awful. It's terrible, but it has a really kind of character evolving moment for Iceman. That's literally all it's worth.
Okay.
We get a quick mention of Stiltman as one of the other useless villains pulling stuff in the background. And then we get into this fight of Spidey versus the Lizard. And again, similar to that like parallel cutting moment from the first issue, there's this moment where Peter is feeling perfect. He's checking in with Dr. Connors, and the two of them look out the window and see Spider-Man fighting the Lizard. And it's like, wait, what? What the fuck? And it's like a funny clone moment too.
Yeah.
And then it turns out on the cover, it wasn't Connors in the scrubs, but it's Peter Parker who has his powers back, but they aren't perfect. What?
Well, maybe.
Yeah. He still has to reconfigure his powers. And so there's a funny moment where Ben Reilly just throws him off a roof to get him out of harm's way, and Peter just falls. And he's like, oh shit, I may have accidentally just killed him.
Yeah.
So Peter really doesn't help remotely in this fight. But maybe he will when we get back to it, because this ends on a cliffhanger. But next issue totally doesn't directly follow this. And the way it ends, whatever it picks up has to directly follow this. But we're not going to actually get to this until like 3 episodes from now.
No.
So the continuity is a mess.
I'm going to maintain what I said last time. Until further notice, I'm going to assume that this lizard is actually the iguana.
Yep. I'm not sure the exact thing, but when because it's trying to follow Kurt, because he said that at some point. He's like, oh no, it tracked me down.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of it as like this fucked up, like similar relationship between Venom and Carnage, where it's like, did Kurt Connors lay an egg? Actually. So now let's wrap things up with
Better than I'd rather Kurt Connors lay eggs than eating his kid.
Yeah.
Now let's wrap things up with Spider-Man Unlimited number 13. Where does this rank among the pantheon of Unlimited issues? Sour topic on this podcast.
I mean, I guess it's near the top.
Near the top middle. Feel bad.
So we have a super scratchy cover by Frank Tieran, and I was very excited that the inside didn't look like that.
Yeah, this cover's gross.
He's gross.
Iron Fist particularly looks haunted. So we have Power Man and Iron Fist fighting Scorpion on the cover with Spider-Man involved. The interiors, on the other hand, are by Joe Bennett, who we already welcomed to the Clone Saga a few episodes ago. I think he might actually sort of be the informal regular artist on Unlimited now. And the writing is by James Felder, who is an editor who occasionally did fill-ins or just bloat assignments. His only semi-major thing is a 2-issue Iron Fist miniseries, which spins out of this. And he's not a good writer.
No, this writing is horrible.
But what's interesting is all of the subplots keep going along, and in fact, most of the stuff that we've been seeing for the past several issues concludes here. Well, kind of like one thing, actually. But again, it's not a formal crossover. This isn't part 5 or anything. So it turns out that Scorpion is the one who has Jameson captive. He has a new edgy suit, and he's disassociating from his real identity as Mac Gargan.
Yeah, how do they walk this one back? How do you make Mac Gargan sane again so that way he can be tortured by Venom?
Well, there's kind of, I mean, I'll get to it at the end, but the problem is there's nothing really in between those two events.
Great.
So Luke Cage is back in New York. He had spent some time in Chicago for a mostly awful 20-issue series written by Mark McLaurin. And that gets a footnote in here. Don't go read that, though Marvel did collect it in 2 trades. And during that period is also when the Punisher turned black and hung out with him for a little bit. Directly before this appearance, Luke Cage, he made a guest appearance in a Secret Defenders arc with Deadpool. That was a terrible series. And he also hung out with Thunderstrike for like 2 issues.
Fun.
But he's back at the Gem Theater, which is kind of his hangout. And he gets a welcoming party from all of his supporting characters, including a very busty Colleen Wing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Good way to put it.
And also so again, it's the Gem Theater. Luke Cage, he hangs around a movie theater. And the guy who owns the theater, one of his supporting characters, is named after controversial film director D.W. Griffith, which, you know, that goes over well because Luke Cage, one of Marvel's most prominent black characters. I'm sure Once Upon a Nation is a great movie to associate with Luke Cage. And Griffith makes a jab at Disney, which is obviously dated now.
Yep.
Marvel's corporate overlords. And Robbie Robertson hires Luke and to track down Jameson. And during the conference, they learn that Scorpion is involved. And I want to nitpick that in this whole issue, Luke Cage's tiara is way too low on his face. It's acting like this weird visor instead of a tiara, which, don't talk shit on the tiara. It's fucking awesome.
No, the way it's drawn here makes me physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, it looks terrible here. It's definitely affecting his eyesight.
Yeah.
So Ben, now he saw on TV that the Scorpion is probably involved, so he goes to investigate Jonah's office, and he runs into Marla, who will eventually die a long time from now. And there's some bad lettering when he's talking to Marla because he has like some thought bubble which clearly has to take place after she mentions something because it's a reveal to him, but they're in the wrong order. I just wanted to nitpick and point that out. But he doesn't have to look for the Scorpion because the Scorpion just ambushes him. There's a boring fight, and Scorpion, through this whole issue, won't shut the hell up about he has this new stupid gimmick where he has to sting you 3 times. And then Ben jumps out of the building with Marla, and he sets up some webbing to break his fall, but then breaks through the webbing and then falls like several stories and just spine first into the sidewalk and then gets up and walks it off.
After having been stung twice with this neurotoxin.
Yeah, this is bullshit.
This is entirely bullshit.
And we were getting constant references in this issue to Code Blue, which is this stupid like NYPD subdivision which Tom DeFalco created and was heavily used in Thor and Thunderstrike. And they even had like a flip book miniseries in Thunderstrike. But they're made like a complete joke constantly in this issue. And I don't understand what Marvel is trying to do. Because they're incompetent in this book, but they're about to get their own.
I don't understand what Marvel's trying to do. That's a sentence that really kind of works in any decade.
Yep. Especially at this point. So Luke, he now knows that maybe there's something going on with the Rand Corporation. So he checks with Misty Knight about Danny Rand because they have a romantic history. She now works with Nelson and Murdoch, so we get like a 1 second Matt Murdock cameo. No Daredevil, no Netflix Avengers team up here. And Luke Cage just invites himself in to Rand Meacham, and he catches Danny in a really shitty mood, and Danny Rand just acts like a complete asshole.
And he's talking to Dr. Eggman? Who is this?
I don't know if it's something like some vision he's creating, if he's actually talking to some entity. I don't understand it. It's not addressed here.
It's like the scene in Dodgeball when Michelle comes into the office while Ben Stiller's like stuffing pizza down his pants. It's like Danny is talking to this weird giant baby of a creature with like no clothes on. He's like, Luke Cage, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like he got interrupted masturbating.
Yeah, and then he spends the rest of this conversation acting like an asshole, and I thought he was possessed by a demon or something.
Yeah,
I was waiting for the big reveal, like, oh, Iron Fist is evil, but nope, that's not it.
He just talks to Captain Underpants.
It's weird too because Iron Fist just kind of had a whole weird era in the 90s, because at the end of the Power Man,
the 90s?
Yeah, at the end of the Power Man and Iron Fist series, Christopher Priest kind of killed Iron Fist, but then replaced him with a plant creature imposter who also died, I believe.
What?
And
what?
And then John Byrne, a few years later, spent almost an entire year of his Namor series bringing back Iron Fist and reestablishing him.
Replaced him with the plant creature. You mean like Luke Cage is running around with a cactus buddy, like fighting crime? What are you?
It was, yeah, but it's like a plant creature, like impersonating without flaws.
Like Matrix Supergirl?
Yes, basically like that.
But
so Luke Cage didn't even really know until.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact, like, three things that don't really necessarily go together. John Byrne, Namor, but in the book it's about Iron Fist.
John Byrne Namor is really awesome, at least for like 2 years, and then it gets really stupid with the Iron Fist stuff. But
yeah,
he eventually
what book he was writing?
He eventually sort of fixes Iron Fist, but then no one wants to do anything with Iron Fist. And I don't know what happened between that and this. I think it's several years, but I don't think anything actually happened. But we don't get a footnote for really any of that. So I don't think any of that's really relevant here.
So this character is Fleshy Danny and not Cactus Danny?
This is definitely Danny Rand, the original, the one and only Iron Fist.
All right. Well, you almost made
this.
That's
not how he says it in the show, but okay.
Yeah,
you almost made this this book 10 times better. But if it's not a secret plant man, then I don't care anymore.
Yeah. So Luke Cage, Danny just pisses him off, but then he just keeps investigating further, and he gets the Scorpion called on him. So they get into a fight, and it's supposed to be like, ooh, the Scorpion's all strong. He can go toe-to-toe with Luke Cage. And I'm like, I don't want to see this. This is a stupid matchup.
I want to see Luke Cage take him out in one punch.
How does the Scorpion make Luke Cage bleed? This is stupid.
I don't know.
But Spidey gets involved, and Scorpion just runs away or whatever. And so they split up, with Luke going back to Rand to find an antidote for the Sting thing. And so he ends up fighting a stupid scientist with like a chemical gun. And the scientist has like, is he supposed to be being subtly racist, or is he just a prick?
I thought it was subtly racist.
Aren't those words for the same thing?
Well, yeah, but he's like specifically like highlighting, saying things like you're an inferior specimen and things
I was reading.
I think you would be a racist prick.
And Misty Knight also shows up to help Luke Cage, and her costume and stuff. Outfit? Yeah, she doesn't look super interesting at this point. But I love how she shows up and she's just like Like usually a character shows up and they're like, oh, this is time for Spider-Man to help out. She's like, this time for Misty Knight to help out with her bionic arm. And I'm like, fuck yeah. But the thing is, the way her costume is at this point, you can't even tell she has a bionic arm.
No.
She's in the full S.H.I.E.L.D. jumpsuit.
Yeah. And Spidey now knows where Scorpion is due to his pep talk from Marla in the basement of the Bugle, which I didn't care about. And we finally get a reference back to Scorpion's last appearance, which was in the final pre-Clone Saga arc of Spectacular, which we actually read like the final. We read like a tiny bit of the final issue.
I was going to say, I remember him beating him up in the sewers, right?
Yeah, because there was a very brief like Ben Reilly appearance that we checked in on. So then Iron Fist shows up with Luke and Misty, and Iron Fist in costume finally now looks just awful because he has this long hair mullet thing going on, and I hate it, especially with this iffy 90s Joe Bennett art.
It's gross.
Yeah.
But they have the antidote. They throw it to Ben, and does he even like use it on panel? I don't remember. They throw it to him, and then it's just he's fine.
I don't remember him using it on panel.
No.
And there's a shitty fight for like a page or two, and Mac Gargan dies because his suit pumps him full of venom as well.
Which is Bane?
Which is stupid. I don't understand it. Yeah, he's like a rip-off Bane. But of course he's not dead. And there's a tease of him like talking to some employer, which I guess later we can retroactively acknowledge and just assume who it is, but I'm pretty sure it totally doesn't get followed up on. In fact, the Scorpion doesn't make another like serious appearance until over 2 years from now in Unlimited 22, which I believe at that point is still being drawn by Joe Bennett. But he doesn't get another major arc until way later in Marvel Knights Spider-Man, which eventually leads to him getting the Venom symbiote.
With Molar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end of this, I don't know, it's always frustrating, but that's the whole point of it. Jameson just acts like his usual exaggerated asshole self towards Spider-Man, despite completely getting his life saved. And of course, he created the Scorpion effectively in the first place. And Iron Fist walks away to that shitty miniseries I mentioned, which in fact was previewed in this issue, at least originally. Did you guys bother at all to just flip through and look at the art?
Yeah, I paged through it. I didn't bother actually reading it because it looks horrible.
For what? The backup? No, I didn't do any. No.
It's drawn, I believe his name's Robert K. Brown, and it's like this awful, super exaggerated ripoff, complete ripoff of Todd McFarlane, and it's super weird.
But also, Eggman comes back.
Yep.
So
that 2-issue miniseries, I don't know why it existed. It's awful, but basically exactly a year from this issue is when John Ostrander launches his Heroes for Hire series.
I like John Ostrander. Was it good?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's from like 1997 to like 99. It's kind of in that weird era after Onslaught where it's like, okay, all the characters everyone actually likes are in a shitty like micro universe being written and drawn by shitty image guys returning. And so it's like, where are remotely good books? And so you get things like Heroes for Hire and Thunderbolts. And eventually we get Heroes Return and all of the characters we actually care about getting good books again.
I will say shout out to John Ostrander writing my favorite Star Wars series ever. Star Wars Legacy. Check that out.
I want to say shout out to John Ostrander for writing my favorite Martian Manhunter series ever. Martian Manhunter by John Ostrander. Check that out.
John Ostrander, like one of those guys, solidly will always probably write a good book.
I'll shout out John Ostrander for writing 50 issues of Firestorm.
We should get John Ostrander on the show.
Yep. I don't.
Could talk Suicide Squad with him.
So that's pretty much the conclusion of this episode. Do you guys have any final thoughts on just kind of how we're moving along with the subplots and everything?
I want to get back to the Strawn stuff. Like, I feel like, we need like a graph at this point to like show enjoyment. This episode was a lot better than last week, and I like this kind of disconnected but still connected way that the books are telling the stories.
Yes, I like that.
Completely got rid of the needless 2 pages of recap between issues too.
Yeah.
Which was crazy because you'd think that this is when they would put in the recaps, but no, because they're doing their own thing, and it totally felt organic. So if it's like this going forward, it was still kind of fun. I mean, anytime Unlimited shows up, it's going to be a slog, but
yeah, I enjoyed the reading for this week.
it was really fast and breezy, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It didn't feel like I was wasting my life away reading the story. I don't care to see Mendel Strom again. I don't really care. They can drop that plot entirely, and I won't complain.
Well, they don't, right? So
well, it's worth noting we shouldn't technically know who he is yet.
Oh, well, no, right. I didn't.
That's on me. So
it's on Nick Spencer.
Yes, Nick Spencer spoiled the Clone Saga for us.
He spoiled a 20-year-old storyline for us.
Damn you, Nick Spencer. No, I'm joking. I love you.
No, it's great.
So next episode should be fun, hopefully.
It's not. It's deceivingly fun because I'm looking at the first issue of what we're reading.
Well, the first issue is not a great thing to look at for the whole next episode. The first issue is just a dumb team up issue with the Avengers. But
and you're like, oh, the Avengers, and you realize it's 1996, and you're like, oh no, the Avengers.
Yep.
Hey, am I gonna have a chance to complain about my boy?
The crossing is upon us. In fact, it's probably over.
Hawkeye's in his worst outfit.
But the bulk of next episode is the debut of Mike Wieringo, and we'll be reading 3 full issues of a Sensational with his art.
Thank God, that's going to be cool.
So that should be exciting.
I'm down for that.
So thanks for watching this episode, and tune in next time. Peace.
Get home safe.